Hi, this is Dustin Luby with Home Mender Inc. and you can find us on the web at homemenderinc.com. Today we are going to change out an electric water heater. Pretty basic, pretty simple, so we'll get it knocked out. First thing we're going to do is turn off the breaker at the panel, usually labeled water heater, obvious. And then we're going to kill the cutoff on top of the water heater. Next, what we want to do is take a garden hose, hook it up here, run it out to the driveway, turn on the valve, open it up, drain the water heater. If we don't, we won't be able to lift it. After we're sure the water's off, the power's off, we're going to go ahead and start taking it apart. So we're going to cut off this pipe insulation here, and get this free. Alright, and then just throw that in the floor anywhere. Okay, we got the insulation off. Generally, there's only one cutoff. That's going to be your cold line. So the cutoff to the supply to the water heater brings in the cold water, warms it up, shoots it out. If you don't know which one's hot and cold, you just feel it. Oh, that's hot. So then we're going to take a tube cutter, pipe cutter, and then cut the pipes. Let's go ahead and make sure this thing is empty. After you got it draining a little bit, you're going to want to open up this pressure release valve. It allows the water to flow out a little smoother by venting it. All right, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the electric supply to the water heater. Again, make sure it is shut off at the breaker box. Okay, and we are going to disconnect. I always like to cap the nuts back, you know, just in case. You'll also want to test after you cut it off. You'll want to test to make sure that it is actually off. Otherwise, you are just relying on someone else, and hopefully they did their job right and labeled it correctly. Not something to play with, so we like to go ahead and test it anyway. After we think our water heater is drained, we're gonna use our pipe cutter to go ahead and cut the pipe. Rocket science. You can't cut this with anything else besides a specialized tube cutter. Otherwise, you will bend or flare out the pipe. Then your fittings won't go on. My pipe cutter sucks. I will be purchasing a new one after this job. Alright, and we are through. And then we're going to go ahead and do the hot side. Alright, we are through. Now we can try to lift this guy out of here. I brought along a dolly. It's going to help. Okay. Alright, this guy is still pretty full, but since we're in a garage, not a big deal, no chance of damaging anything. We're going to go ahead and wheel it out. Once we get the old water heater out, we got to put the new water heater in. So here it is. It's nice and pretty. We do want to make sure that our electrical line is going to be long enough to reach it. Also, you want to make sure that your hose bib, where we drained the water heater before, is accessible. Here it isn't a problem, but sometimes they're in a closet or something, so you want to make sure you can get to that for the next time. Alright, we want to take some sandpaper cloth and go ahead and clean up our supply line, get it nice and pretty. It'll shine up like grandma's brass. See how pretty now? And voila. We're going to go ahead and do the other one too. Right now we're just working our ground line over top of this screw so we can tighten it down and secure it. Alright, we are in. Now we're going to connect the power. Usually the wires are labeled. If they're not, hooking them up exactly how you found it is a good rule of thumb. Now cram the 10 pounds of wire into a 5-pound hole. Alright, now that our electrical line is wired and secure, we can go ahead and run the supply line. Alright, I'm going to be using a 3/4 inch steel braided shark bite fitting connection, which is amazing. They've got these little push on fittings, push in, pull it back to lock it, secures it, very sweet. So, those on, pull them down to lock it, and then run this. Make sure you run your supply line obviously to your cold. You don't want to reverse it or anything. So the water heater is usually labeled on top hot and cold, or it'll be labeled with a red or blue something or other. Alright, we'll go ahead and snug these down in a minute. Let's do our hot side. Again, push up, pull down, and it's locked. Okay. Alright. Now, they've already got washers inside them, so there's no need to Teflon or pipe dope the nipples or anything like that. Nipples. So we're going to snug them down. Alright, we are completely snug. So, we've got our electric wired, we've got our supply lines run. So what we're going to do now is turn the water on. Our water supply line is back on now. You can hear the water heater filling up. So while we wait for that to happen, alright, while we wait for our tank to fill up, we're going to go ahead and run the pressure relief valve line. By code, these need to be extended within 6 inches of the floor. And we're always going to do things to code. So what I've got here is a 3/4 male fitting copper. So we are going to sweat this line on here. Alright, good and clean. We're going to take some Recto-Seal thread sealant, also known as pipe dope, and we're going to dope this. And then we're going to dope the inside threads of this guy too. Alright. Oops. After that's done, we're going to go ahead and put this guy on there. Alright. Tighten him down. Alright, get him good and snug. Now, the fun part. We have some, after we've cleaned our fittings, we've also cleaned the end of the pipe that's going in there. We are going to sweat this on there with, or solder this on there with a little bit of flux. We're gonna put the flux inside the fitting here and on the part that's going to be connected, the copper line. You want to use a clean brush. This brush is not clean, so we're just going to make sure we don't get any crud in there. The flux helps the solder to flow a little better. So this guy's going to go right up in there. We've got our torch, a little bit of solder. You always want to heat up the fitting, not the pipe. And there we have it. Alright, now that we got our electric connected, we got our supply lines done, we got our pressure relief valve line run within 6 inches of the floor. We're going to go ahead and valve on the breaker and hope nothing explodes. That should do it. Now your elements are warming up. Our last step, which I'm not going to take you in there and do, is we're going to bleed the lines. Open up the hot water on the tubs, open up the hot water on the sink. Basically just gets the new water flowing through, so where you won't have a lot of popping and hacking when you turn on your water. That's it. Water heater's installed, the lines inside are bled, electric's back on, water's heating up as we speak. All in all, it took about 35 minutes. So all that's left to do is clean up the mess. You can choose to clean up the mess or not. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. No, I always clean up my mess. But that's it. So for HomeMenderInc.com, I'm the Home Mender, Dustin, and I will see you next time.